Hello guys, Matsimus here with you once again, thanks for joining me. So, when you think of tank destroyer, what do you normally think of? When I think of tank destroyer, I think of something like this, or primarily more something like this.
The newest and best tank eradicator on the market, the M10 tank destroyer, guaranteed, and I do mean guaranteed, to blast the last swastika off any tank she meets. Easily accommodating its crew of 5, the new M10, affectionately known as the Little Beauty, handles with the ease of a kiddie car. And with her new improved bogies, rough terrain becomes smoothest highway. Durable as a rhinoceros, the destroyer can crawl down a cliff like a fly on the side of a building. How is she in water? Why, gentlemen, the Little Beauty might well be called the M10 Duck. Power? Watch her twin diesel engines pull her up this 28-degree grade with no track grousers. Just picture yourself in the TD cruising along this road. Sudden death to the Mark 6 Tiger, the German tank test now extinct in North Africa. Maximum speed, 32 miles an hour. Easy steering with clutch brakes. 200 miles to the tank full. Notice the ease with which she's buttoned up for action. The smart zipper covers on the gun are yours at no added cost. And still another extra is the manual firing bar. Every man in a TD is a happy man. Why, who wouldn't be happy at the shooting end of the powerful 3-incher? The gun turret revolves in a complete circle, turned by a traversing wheel even your sister could operate. And here's a feature we're especially proud of. Front and side periscopes for easy visibility. Firing the gun is a pleasure you won't want to miss with our new automatic breech block and the simple firing device. The M10 is a paragon of accuracy. And the shells, also manufactured by the Screaming Eagle Hardware Company, will pierce the thickest armor plate. Don't wait. Get your M10 tank destroyer today. That's spelled T-A-N-K-D-E-S-T-R-O-Y-E-R. Tank destroyer. You can't go wrong with the Little Beauty. Guaranteed to make any tank curl up its backs and die. If you don't believe us, ask the man who didn't own one, General Erwin Rommel of Berlin, Germany. See you're right, your supply sergeant today. Immediate delivery is assured.
Quite an impressive video. Always puts a smile on my face seeing those classic tank videos, kind of a showcase, and they put a bit of humour into it, which is rather interesting. So, you're probably wondering, well, why am I bringing up old tank destroyer footage? Well, guys, today's video is talking about tank destroyers, and primarily, do we still today have the ability to produce newer type tank destroyers? Now, tank destroyer as a definition is kind of negated by, nowadays we have the main battle tank, and the main battle tank is in essence a tank destroyer. Its purpose is to engage other tanks. However, I've been doing some thinking lately in regards to new vehicles being designed, new features that are coming out on vehicles and such today. And it seems very apparent that the anti-tank guided missile is today what would be mostly appreciated as the tank destroyer. Now, what my focus is on today is vehicle-based tank destroying systems. Now, obviously, the anti-tank guided missile is dominating right now in terms of knocking out vehicles, and especially heavily armored vehicles on the battlefield. But that's not really my primary focus, which I want to talk to you about today. My focus today is to talk to you about an actual tank destroyer that could potentially be designed like the older tank destroyers. Let's be honest, guys, we know what a tank destroyer was in the old day. It was a big, heavy-duty, heavily armored, very slow, and very underpowered vehicle. It was designed to be as much armor on the frontal slope as possible to be able to prevent penetration, and a huge armament to be able to knock out as much armor as possible on the other end of the gun. And we all know especially that the Russians were very keen on making these tank destroyers and to try and produce guns and weapons that were able to take out the very dominating German armor back in the day. Now you're probably wondering, why am I talking about vehicles that are dated and we don't have this same kind of military tactic anymore? My question to you is, why not? Okay, so I understand there's anti-tank guided missiles out there, we have the ability to produce tanks that can drive very quickly across the battlefield, have turrets that can rotate 360 degrees and not locked in the frontal position like we're looking at this vehicle right now. But let's be honest here, we have advanced in technology dramatically since back in the day, and I think it's time to start looking back at potentially redesigning the tank destroyer of today. Now, there are tank destroyers that already exist out there, but nothing is really comparable to these old beasts, and I honestly feel like we could actually start taking these old tactics and these old designs and improving them really, really well to be able to actually purposely just knock out tanks, not support infantry, not be able to integrally move with the rest of the battle group, basically find a firing position and engage it from long range with whatever weapon system is dictated on it at the time. For instance, let's look at this vehicle right now. This vehicle here is the STRV-103. Very impressive tank, very spooky looking tank, and looks like a gigantic cheese wedge, but is fantastic for being able to do exactly what I just mentioned, digging into a position and hunting down tanks, finding them, sneaking up on them, getting into a dug down position and firing on them, and hopefully knocking them out. That's what this tank was designed for, guys. Its purpose was to hunt other tanks. It wasn't there to support infantry, it wasn't there for close support in urban areas, it wasn't there to scout out other vehicles, it was purely there to knock out other tanks. And I think, personally, we still have that ability in modern day battlefield techniques, and I think we should start relating back to it. Now, there's obviously many different technicalities when producing vehicles like this, whether it be very heavy, trying to figure out the different kind of loading capabilities, the ammunition, the types of ammunition that can be used, but we have a whole plethora of ammunition and weapon systems to utilize. Nowadays, most main battle tanks are using the 120mm gun or the 125mm gun, but there is a lot of options out there for different armaments. I would like to see a vehicle that has a huge armament that is purely for knocking out any tank that is on the modern day battlefield today. I'm thinking of a tank that is massive armament, I mean a huge gun that is able to penetrate any kind of armor package that modern day tanks are coming out with now, and a lot of armor on its frontal slope. Yes, we need a vehicle that can be protected for 360 degrees, but let's be honest, if we're talking about tank on tank warfare, the front of the vehicle primarily is going to be taking the brunt of the firepower, which was originally what the old tank destroyers were designed for. Now, you may think I'm crazy thinking that we could actually do this, that we're actually going to produce tanks like they were back in the Second World War. But let's be honest, if we're going into modern day combat in tanks, then we need to think about what kind of things are the most important to us when going in tank on tank combat. Armor and firepower are really the two most important things. Let's talk about armor first of all. We're starting to see that new weapon systems being able to penetrate even some of the most complex armor packages, from Chobham to Dorchester and even to the Burlington armor package. There is explosive reactive armor and there's all sorts of different kinds of armor out there, but at the end of the day, why can't we produce a vehicle very similar to this kind of design setup that produces a heck of a lot more frontal armor than what's standard? Crew protection is vital. If the tank is taken out by its crew, it's useless. There's absolutely no point in having the vehicle. Armament. Okay, so this gun here is clearly going to knock out anything that is on the battlefield if it was transferred to modern equivalents. The logistical demand is very difficult though, however. To produce a tank like this and to produce ammunition for a tank like this is going to be very difficult. Reloading it in terms of logistical supply is also going to be extremely difficult. But there are many ways around this. We have very, very good methods of getting ammunition and supply back onto the battlefield now, and we can also create automated systems that will allow us to put the rounds into the tanks quite easily. You got to remember that I'm talking about a vehicle that doesn't need to be protected very vitally around 360 degrees of the vehicle. It really just needs to be able to take a frontal face towards the enemy and engage it without being engaged first and knocked out. Therefore, any kind of ammunition resupply could be quite easily adapted into the rear of the vehicle with a little less armor to allow some auto-loading system. I mean, I'm purely speculating. Now, we already know that there's many different tank destroyer systems already out there, whether it be the 105mm M1128 Striker, or even some of the more modern vehicles like the Centauro 120mm tank destroyer. As I said before, it's not really a tank destroyer as such, because to be a tank destroyer it needs to have armament to be able to fully knock out another tank. It's difficult to say, but 120mm rounds may not penetrate all modern day tanks that are out there today. That's why I'm saying we need to produce tanks that have weapons that are twice as powerful as the 120mm or 125mm guns that are being used on most main battle tanks today. Now, militaries around the world would much rather keep the cheap option than the expensive option, and normally the cheaper option means if we can get as minimalistic kit onto a vehicle as possible to allow it to potentially do its job, then we're going to do so. That's why we're starting to see vehicles trend towards the M128 Striker and vehicles that have anti-tank guided weapon systems on top, because at the end of the day, guys, they're a lot cheaper and a lot easier to produce than a main battle tank or my so-called potential design of a tank destroyer. The militaries don't want to spend billions of dollars or millions of dollars trying to develop these heavy-duty vehicles that may or may not get A, immobilized on the battlefield, B, still not have enough armor protection to be protected against certain weapon systems, and C, is very logistically demanding. However, I think the ability to do that is still apparent. Main battle tanks are always going to be a part of the battlefield. That's inherently important. We need vehicles that have enough firepower to be able to take out other vehicles, but still have the mobility to travel across large amounts of land, to be able to sometimes support infantry, whether it be in urban areas or just in general on the battlefield. But with vehicles such as the M128 Striker, we're starting to see that the vehicles are actually purposely designed to take out other tanks. Is it designed purely for that though? It's hard to say. The US military really wanted to try and produce a vehicle that could be mobile and a lot quicker on the battlefield with enough firepower to do the exact same job as the Abrams tank. But could we design something that is even wheeled, that would have a crap load of armor on the front and still have a gun twice the size? A lot of people have been curious as to what's going to be the next gun placed onto main battle tanks today. Everybody gets their panties in a twist about the new guns that are going to come out for the new tanks of the future. The German defense company Rheinmetall has unveiled a prototype of the 130mm smoothbore gun for a future main battle tank. According to the company, the increase of 8% in caliber results in 50% more kinetic energy over the 120mm gun from the same company, installed in thousands of tanks worldwide. The 130mm gun, which was financed entirely by the German company, weighs more than 3.5 tons compared to the approximately 3-ton 120mm gun, and uses a cartridge of more than 30 kilograms at about 1.3 meters long. Given these enhanced parameters, Rheinmetall's engineers believe the weapon can only be used with an automatic loader and new turret design. So with that being said, guys, they're already starting to produce bigger guns that will require automatic loaders and bigger systems to put this ammunition into those guns anyway. So why are we only increasing by 10mm at a time? We should be producing bigger, heavier, nastier guns. Now, I'm just a crazy weirdo that has no idea what he's talking about when it comes to the technicalities of designing an actual tank. But I can always fantasize and I can always dream that I'd wish they would produce a tank or a tank destroyer that has this absolutely massive gun, a crap load of frontal armor that is purely there to drive onto the battlefield, hunt down tanks and blast the living crap out of it. Is it something that's practical? Probably not. Is it something that's ever going to happen? Again, probably not. However, we are starting to see little tiny faint drops of my tank destroyer design and dream going into tanks today. As I just mentioned, the 130mm gun. We're upgrading the guns bigger and bigger every time new armor packages come out. We have to counter the technological arms race of tanks today. When we produce an armor package, we need something that can penetrate it. That's why I'm saying that if we're gonna produce a tank, then let's go big or go home. Now, like I said before, this is really not realistic in terms of modern day conflicts. We're trying our best to do this light roll, quick mobility scenario. Look at these beautiful vehicles here. I mean, we've got tanks working alongside mobile wheeled vehicle armaments. Really, really nice to see, and I think that's how it's going to continue to progress. We're going to start stepping away from these really heavily armored tanks rolling around and more mobile, quick reaction force tanks. or quick reaction force wheeled vehicles with heavy armaments like the M1128 Striker. However, what's saying we can't produce these tanks with bigger guns? We're already looking at the 130mm gun that's designed to give this massive increase over the 120. Why are we not trying to develop these wheeled vehicles as tank destroyers? Primarily as designed as tank destroyers. Give them a big old gun, an auto-loading system, help them support the main battle tanks and hunt for the tanks. Not support the infantry and knock out buildings purely to be on the battlefield, designated as a tank killer, with a vehicle that can actually range out guns and munitions far beyond the distance of the standard main battle tank guns. Main battle tanks are there to get in close with the enemy and find the tanks as quickly as possible. These vehicles I'm looking more along the sides of, parking up in a wood line and locating enemy along a long distance with a reconnaissance element giving them a heads up. We're also able to use different kind of munitions in these barrels, whether it be fired by a standard shell or anti-tank guided weapon systems. The missiles can actually be fired through the barrels of smoothbore guns. It's nothing new, we've seen it for a while, and it's really good technology. It's actually starting to get to the point where it's very effective. The Russians have done very well with trying to get this technology working, and the Americans have done the exact same. I honestly think that we need to continue working on this kind of design and actually start producing vehicles that are, again, using these weapons that can be used just for knocking out tanks. The great thing about utilizing this kind of weapon is it increases the range of the main armament really far. We're talking potentially double or even triple with certain weapon systems, but it still gives you the flexibility being able to use your main armament for other certain vehicles. For instance, if you are producing a tank destroyer that is able to engage with a main armament for close range / medium range, you're then given the extended capability of firing munitions like the launched missile that will triple its range. But once again, you can't produce a vehicle like a tank destroyer without having enough protection for it. So if you're going to go on the wheeled basis, it's not going to work very well. So there you have it, guys. The tank destroyer theory is probably never going to happen again. I understand that doctrine of today is very different to what it used to be. However, I really do feel like designing of a new tank could be potentially made into this kind of design with a lot of frontal protection and a hell of a lot of firepower. Let's just hope to see that the main battle tanks that will be designed in the future are given a lot more protection in the frontal area and bigger armament. It seems like it's a no-brainer that it's going to happen anyway, but I would love to see vehicles that are designed purely for knocking out tanks and not being given the secondary roles such as supporting infantry and such. Guys, please leave a like and a comment if you enjoyed today's video, and if you are new to my channel, please subscribe. I appreciate you stopping by. All the best, and bye-bye.